Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Meet the world's first living, full-spectrum, certified organic CBDA hemp extract. Ness's hemp oil was extracted from seed to bottle without chemicals, solvents, or heavy metals, and it surpasses world-class standards for purity. This pure and powerful CBDA has been proven to reduce aches and pains, ease mental tension, and promote better sleep. To get yours today, visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the State of Freedom, where we are grounded in faith in the Constitution, and we're committed to giving voice to truth, living with courage, and taking action. It is Thursday, November 20th. It's 10 a.m. Central. I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Chris Alexander. He's the watchdog in chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, trying to keep these people up in Baton Rouge straight, having a heck of a time with it. It is a full-time, it's more than a full-time job. It's 17 full-time jobs. We are coming to you live this morning on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, as long as they'll have us. You can always catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms as well, like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And I just found out last night, I was talking to my dad, we are shadow banned so bad on Spotify. He listens to every single show, and he showed me that he has to literally search for us every single time, even though he listens to us as much as he listens to Vince, the guy that took over for Bongino and all those other people. So if you're looking for us on Spotify, please go and pin us in there. It'll make it easier to find us, but I don't know why they hate us so much, but you know,
well,
I guess,
because we're speaking the truth.
Yeah, I guess so. We're speaking the truth. But we are so honored to have a friend of ours back with us. Steve Jarvis is with us today. Steve is a fifth-generation regenerative farmer from Idaho. He's an educator on regenerative farming practices through his organization, Sustainable Agrarian Solutions, and he has been raising awareness on the devastation caused by geoengineering and weather modification, along with a host of other things. Welcome to the show, Steve. It's great to have you back with us.
Yeah, thank you. A lot better than last time where my electricity went out and we had to do it from the truck in the middle of nowhere.
We love adventures over here.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me.
And we don't have to go find them.
That's true. Is your dog with you?
No, he's not in the office. He's
Okay.
He's sleeping by the fireplace.
Oh, even better. Even better. Good for him.
There you go.
All right. Well, let me start out with the scripture of the day to frame out our conversation. Today, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16. And it says, let me find it here. The letters get smaller and smaller. It says, "For who has ever intimately known the mind of the Lord Yahweh well enough to become his counselor? Christ has, and we possess his perceptions." And the Lord brought me to that this morning. And I just thought, I had to ponder on it for a little while, because I was like, what are you trying to say here, God? And, it's the Holy Spirit who is the Spirit of truth, and he leads us into all truth. And I was so encouraged this morning by this, to not be fixated on what we see in the world around us, in the natural realm. We have to leave room for Holy Spirit to talk to us. We have to leave room for the mind of Christ to show us what is going on in the spirit realm. Because if we live too much in the natural realm and we lean too much on our own understanding, it's exhausting. We can burn out, and we're not winning, right? Like, you don't have the divine strategy you need. So I want to just ask and encourage us all this morning to position ourselves for maximum effectiveness by seeking the Lord for his wisdom in all that we do. I want us to ask Jesus to help us see with his perceptions, because leaning on our own understanding leads to miscalculations, leads to mistakes, and like I said, it leads to burnout. But tapping into our connection with the divine, with the mind of Christ, with the spirit of truth, leads us to victory.
Yeah. And helps us to not become demoralized, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Because it's very easy.
It's funny you say that. I sent a message. So this morning, it's amazing that you say that, because this morning, last night, I was in a meeting with a bunch of guys, and we're working on this huge platform. It's called, I'm working with the guys, Nathan and Chris, and they've done, it's called The Religion Business. It's on Amazon Prime. You can go watch the show, 7-part series, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've teamed up with these guys, and what I'm doing is I'm helping them, because I've got a lot of discipleship material. My material is free on my website. It's sas-usa.com. You can go there. My book on joy is free. My book on healing is free. Those things in there. But it's interesting that you say that, because this morning, the first thing I did is I got up and I sent a message to these boys, and I said, listen, I got to share this with you. I said, where it says the eye is the window to the soul, I said, that's talking about the pineal gland. It's not talking about these.
Oh,
it's the
interesting.
third eye. And I said, listen, the eye it's the ability to have wisdom, the ability to see what's not seen. Like you can see, it's like those of us that didn't take the COVID vaccine or never put a mask on. You're like, I don't know what's going on. I can see it, but something else is going on. And that's what people need. And the eye is the window of the soul. That's the pineal gland. That's why they put fluoride in the water. There's 3 dimensions to this thing. We got the spirit world, but we got the physical world, and we got the people who work with the the evil side. And what they do, they do things to our physical body in order to hinder us. And God made us in his image, and the pineal gland and stuff it's critical, because that's where your critical thinking is. I mean, you could scientifically, I talked to doctors about this. This is how you discern. It gives you wisdom. It's able to take wisdom and knowledge and put them together and say, hey, something's up. You can't see really what it is, but you see.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
and Steve,
really interesting.
We are fighting that fight here in Louisiana to get the fluoride out of our water. I think it can happen. I know a bill was brought this past session that failed because the dentist turned out en masse to say, oh, all the poor kids are going to have rotten teeth if you take the fluoride out of the water. But I believe our Surgeon General can just reduce the recommended or reduce the regulation from down to 0, and then all of the parishes would have to comply. So that's what we need to happen, Chris. We need
I agree.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And and if the Surgeon General did that, of course, it would be in the form of an administrative or executive order, but it wouldn't. It would not necessarily survive his tenure. Whereas
right.
if
I
we
think
got
it's his
legislation
guidelines.
passed,
Exactly.
yeah, it would be guidelines. But anyway, yeah, it is something that absolutely has to be done. Steve, tell us what's last time you were on, we talked about the Mystic bill, the bill that was, I believe, advanced in Texas Senate committee in response to the horrific tragedy flood in July in Texas. What's happening with that now?
Well, I can tell you we got a big fight on our hands in 2026, but we talked earlier before the show, and I was saying that it looks like to me, it appears to me that the people that are not with us are everywhere in government. And one of the things that's been so disappointing, I had people working with me in Montana, Missouri, some in Louisiana actually as well, and then also Idaho. Well, what's interesting is a lot of these people that were working with me, they all got paid to go to the 50 state one Israel. Now, listen, I don't know what your stance is. We haven't talked about this. I don't know. I'm not an Israel first, and I'm not an Israel last. Okay. But what are state senators doing going to Israel and getting big, huge paid money trips? I mean, because these are state senators, but these DBS laws are what's going to be really hammered down next in our states. That's what's coming. So
what's DBS, Steve? Sorry.
DBS, you can look this up, but DBS, it's basically you're not going to be able to be allowed to boycott or say anything about Israel. And that's going to go into the state.
Wow.
That's coming. That's coming big time. That's the big push. So what's happening is all these people that are supposedly, helping me in this fight for weather modification and cloud seeding and NextRad and AT&T. It's multi-layered.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're like, everything's about Israel. And so I'm like, well, they're not going to mess with the Mystic Bill anymore, because they're all focused on, Israel, which, I'm not for, listen, I'm sorry. I'm not for bombing Gaza off the face of the earth. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
And so, and I'm not for us sending another, my understanding is the new contract. So what I'm trying to say is that our state legislators, there are 5 that went from every single state. And they all, now explain to me how one tiny nation gets all our state, they got more traction on getting 50 state one Israel done than I've done screaming about Mystic Bill and weather modification for an entire year.
It's cash.
It's cash. It's got to be cash.
Steve, why do you think it is that there's this sort of blind deference to the state of Israel, the Israeli government? And I certainly understand the history. I understand the biblical relationship between scriptural Judaism and Christianity, and I have respect for that. But how does that translate into this sort of what you're talking about now, the specter of like a legal prohibition against speech, against the ability to criticize a foreign government? Why do you think that is?
Well, and we're going to tie this to weather modification and what I'm about to say. Okay. So what you have to realize is the reason the states aren't going to do anything about the Mystic Bill is because I cover balloons at 62,000 feet releasing stuff. All right. Guess where the company is? It's out of Tel Aviv. It's called Make Sunsets. It's out of Tel Aviv.
I didn't realize that. I thought they were out of like Nevada or Utah or something, or maybe even Dubai. I don't know. But I didn't realize they were out of Tel Aviv.
The main headquarters is in Tel Aviv. And unfortunately, it looks to me like that the Israeli government is in with this. And let's face it, we know that this has to be a big, huge group of people with a boatload of money to do this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, now they're going to put sulfur dioxide dust, at 62,000 feet in order to block the sun. Well, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations already this morning. And I told people this morning, they were talking to me about organic regenerative farming. You guys know that, I talk about that on Capitol Hill and stuff. I said, nothing is organic anymore. And I said, if all these people, if I could just get all the people that are in an organic regenerative fight just to focus on the Mystic Bill to get stop weather modification over the states, nothing is organic, folks. Planes came over me this morning. I'm telling you, stuff's dropping out of the sky. The top 1/4 inch of the soil. I have a farm that's 25 miles from me. They've tested their soil like 6 times in the last, say, 4 years. And every time the aluminum is up 100%. That's why I have 200 doctors on board with me. Dr. Ryan Cole, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Mav. I mean, I have all these top doctors on with me because they know that this aluminum is it's autism. So it's all connected. Yeah. And unfortunately, the finger points back to Israel. And let me just say this. I know this may sound funny, but I am a master at the Old Testament and ancient history. And the reason I am a master at ancient history is because I was sprayed by the military in 1990, and it put me on my deathbed. So God forced me to study his word. Mm-hmm. And let me just tell you that the Israeli government right now is Khazarian. They're not actually. And people say, oh, well, we got to support the 12 tribes. I just want the 12 tribes of Israel to please stand up and just say who they are, because these cats are not them.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Steve. And I think this is a big part of the ongoing debate around Israel and I don't know if it's even a debate. It seems like a large scale screaming match. But if we can understand that the United States has a deep state, if we can understand and see that France has a deep state, Canada has a deep state, Mexico, you name it. I mean, Venezuela, everyone. I mean, a lot of countries right now, if not all countries, are almost exclusively being run by bad guys. So I don't understand what the breakdown is, where people just either They go I think there's two ditches here. One ditch is obviously we have to completely give deference to Israel in everything, and Israel means all of the country and all of the people. The other ditch is let's blame the Jews for everything. So I think I'm not taking on any of the responsibility for Joe Biden's bad behavior when he was at the helm of this country. I don't identify with any of the policy changes he directed. So I don't want to do the same to any other person in any other people group, any other nation. But I have to agree with you that it stands to reason that there are some dark forces at play at the helm of the government.
And they're working, and if you just follow the money, right? If you just look how much money President Trump is about to sign a new deal, a weapons deal with Netanyahu, that's $50 billion. You know, I mean, why is it they need all these things? If they would just quit shooting their neighbor, they would need so many missiles and rockets. But there's something very nefarious going on. And listen, I know people that are watching this, that are Christians, that are watching this, they're going to say, oh, it's just prophesied, it's just fulfilling prophecy. Fine. I don't care. I believe that God wants us to fight for good in this earth and do right and call out the bad guys and say and give people direction.
Amen.
People say, we need to separate church and state. No, bro, you don't need to separate church and state. What do you want me to do? You want a person like me who understands the scriptures and understands that the Israeli government is Khazarian and are not really part of the 12 tribes of Israel? Do you want me in Washington, D.C. talking about agricultural policies and directing them? Or do you want some punk heathen that's an atheist that doesn't believe there is a God? Okay.
Yeah.
So this separation of church and state, listen, that's put in by the Rothschilds so that the church used to have power, and the church just say, no, we're not doing that. And people would listen to the church more so than the government. Yeah. Now we have a twofold problem. Now we have a government that's completely out of order. And I think they've all been infiltrated, especially since I found out all these senators and House representatives from all these states, and they're state senators. What are they doing in Israel? Shouldn't they be representing Louisiana? Shouldn't they be representing Wyoming? Shouldn't they be representing Montana? No, that's what they're doing. They should be in their state representing their people instead of overseas having a big bang up party and planting pine trees.
Yeah. Are they, Steve, are they compromised just by the money, or are they compromised in other ways?
Well, you know, the thing about it is if you look at a lot of the doctrines that are in Christianity.
Well, I'm talking about the, let me make sure I got my question clear, and then I want to hear your answer. I'm talking about the elected officials on the national and I guess even on the state level. Are they compromised because of all the money that they're receiving from AIPAC, for instance, or are they compromised in other ways?
Yes, two ways. I mean, if you look at AIPAC and look at all, my thing is if anybody is part of AIPAC, they should be voted out of office, and so money is part of it. But also this doctrine they have stuck in their head, and this doctrine is that Israel are the chosen people, and that they're God's people, and that we must bless them at all costs, no matter what. And when you have that stuff drilled into your head and you believe that, it affects the way you think about where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing, you're exactly right, Steve. And the thing that just troubles me about it, as a matter of principle, is that we as American citizens, we have the absolute right to criticize any government in the world, no matter who it is. And even though we have historically had a unique relationship with Israel, the idea that anybody would be canceled, and certainly that there would be laws enacted that would prohibit the free expression of one's own opinion with regard to a foreign government and any of the actors in that government, and the extent to which American officials could be compromised by that government, is unbelievable to me. You know, that we would be in a position. You're not suggesting that any states have actually, or the federal government, for that matter, has passed a law as yet that censors that type of speech. Are you?
It's coming. It's going to happen. It will happen. If I'm on a podcast from a year from now, it will have happened. It's going to happen.
And you're not just talking about the shadow banning on social media. You're talking about repercussions legally for the expression of your opinion.
That's right.
Well,
There's going to be jail time.
Maybe in Louisiana, we'll have to. The arbiter of what we say is going to be the Secretary of State, since that's basically how it is already.
Well, sure. Certainly when it comes to voting precincts, we had a law that passed, deplorably down here, Steve, last legislative session, that was pushed by our Secretary of State and our governor, that prohibits normal law-abiding ordinary citizens from conducting exit polls at voting precincts, but because they're not part of a quote bona fide news organization. But CNN and MSNBC and groups like that can still conduct exit polls, so that their free speech is constitutionally protected in Louisiana now, whereas the speech of ordinary Louisiana citizens is not. And we have been beating the drum about that horrible bill for quite a while, and hopefully we get that repealed at some point. It's just terrible, but it is quite alarming what you're saying. I do remember this, Steve, that I know there was a bill that was pending in Congress a year or two ago that would have enacted a prohibition against critical speech against the state of Israel. But I think there was a lot of blowback on it. I don't think it passed, but certainly the mere specter of that is frightening. The idea that would even be contemplated in the legislative body, that in a representative republic, is unbelievable.
Well, and that's what you're going to see when 2026 hits the ground. You're going to see that the Mystic bill and farm bills and regenerative stuff is going to be secondary, and it might be 10th down the list, because something is nefarious going on in all state legislators when you get 5. Now, y'all tell me how much you think it costs. How much do you think it costs to fly 250 state legislators to Israel, keep them for a week, hoteled up, food, travel, all that? Tell me, and the Netanyahu is the one that actually speaks to them. How much do you think that costs per person?
$5,000 minimum.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's at $25,000 per person minimum.
Yeah. And probably the money is that's paying the cost of that is money that we sent to them.
Exactly. And so that's the issue. And if you look also too, if what's going on, so what I try to do is I try to look at everything from like a 90,000 foot view. And if people want to see, I just posted, everybody said, can I see your farm plan? So my farm plan, since the government, yes, President Trump, Brooke Rollins is not going to do anything. They're not going to help small farms. This thing is over, folks. Sorry to inform you of that, but they're not going to do anything. But if you want to read my farm plan, it's on sas-usa.com, and you need to go click on important links. And in the important links, my farm plan is in there. Also, I wrote an emergency farm plan for President Trump. It has 31 points to it. The top 6 of those are supposedly on President Trump's desk, supposedly. And then also I've written what is called the Farmer and Ranchers Declaration of Independence. I wrote that on November the 9th, 2025. So those are all on there. The Mystic bill that I've written is not on there because it is intellectual property rights, and I can't give it to the public until it's introduced by a legislator somewhere. I don't know, anywhere. It doesn't matter. Once it's introduced, I can share it with the world. But until then, but you could read. Basically, folks, my Mystic bill just says stop pouring stuff out of. We don't care if it's cat piss out of a kite, and we arrest the guys that do it.
I'm over here taking notes. When I pop out of the screen, I want you to know I'm taking notes.
Did you put cat piss out of a kite?
Yes, that's what that's what you have to come look at my notebook. That's what it says.
Steve, I think we're going to have to include that phrase in a piece of legislation, just so they'll know that we included
really mean
in
it.
this prohibition is cat piss out of a kite.
Well, okay. We don't consent. Is this true?
It's true.
Well, of course we don't consent. Of course we don't consent.
Yeah, no, that's what the people in Louisiana need to get a drink on. Listen, they're putting stuff over the top of you. You didn't consent. It's pollution, and you didn't consent to any of it. You do not have to prove what it is. Okay, you don't have to look up lanthanide and figure out what parts it is. Some, all these metallic metals that go in your bloodstream and make nanotechnology and transhumanism. You don't have to know all that stuff. And if you're on antidepressants, you don't want to read all that stuff anyway, because you'll double up, maybe triple up by the end of the day. So what I'm trying to tell you is all you know is they're dumping pollution over the top of you, and maybe it's cat piss, and you're just saying no. It's that simple.
And they're not doing anything about it.
No, they're not doing anything about it.
Did you see any slowdown of that during the shutdown, the 40 however many day government shutdown?
It slowed down 5 days here. I documented it here where I am. The day the government shut down, everybody was sending me messages. See, you're so right. See, the government's doing it. And I sent them videos of them spraying over me that day. And then it lasted about 5 or 6 days here, and then they let us have it. So I told my wife, I said, all they did is shut it all down because they changed the Kool-Aid they're putting out. It's not cat urine, it's possum urine now.
Oh gosh.
So the marginal and brief slowdown, Steve, really didn't have anything to do with the shutdown?
No. Because this is what people don't understand, how embedded this is. All 15 agencies of the government. The National Science Foundation gives $280 million to colleges every year, okay, to study this junk. The Smithsonian Institute has money in it. This money is in NASA, NOAA. It's in HHS. It's in everything. And it cracks me up. I tell you, I got to add this funny part in here. Pete Hegseth is no longer the Secretary of War. And that's because he thought made him look like he wears a dress or something. Now it's the Department of War, and he's the emperor now. that new thing. Listen, still doesn't change the perspective. I still see him as a person with a skirt on, because he's not doing anything about protecting the people. And if you're really such a warrior, Pete Hegseth, this is for you. You do have a skirt on, because you're not doing anything to protect the people of America. You're just down there in Venezuela going to blow up a bunch of drug dealers.
Yeah, metaphorical skirt. What is Steve? What is your? I still have and you may disagree, but I still have a relatively high opinion of RFK Jr. The instinct that I have is that he's really being blockaded in terms of what he has spent his life really fighting for, his whole MAHA agenda. And I want to ask you, what is your opinion of Susie Wiles?
Well, that was just fixing to tell you that Susie Wiles and Stephanie Spears are sabotaging Bobby Kennedy. I'm sorry. That's what they're doing. Susie Wiles and Stephanie Spears. Stephanie Spears, I made a video through Hunter, but I asked for her resignation after RFK was at my farm, and after she was here with him. I called for her resignation.
What is it? Why is Susie Wiles, if she is doing it, why is she doing it? Does she support all this?
Well, it looks like to me all roads lead back to AIPAC.
So, okay. All right. So, and so, because we've heard from numerous sources that Susie Wiles is the big impediment here. And so that is corroborated by what you know.
Mm-hmm. That's why Gray Delaney was my contact. Gray Delaney did more. He was only hired. He only lasted 52 days in HHS. Gray Delaney did more in 52 days than the whole entire administration has done all year.
But doesn't RFK as head of HHS, does he have the power to override her?
Listen, to me, it looks like she is the one running the cell phone when the messages go out.
So why would President Trump, Danielle and I were talking about that this morning. he came out with something recently that extols all the power that Susie Wiles has, that she could destroy the world if she wanted to. And I just thought it was odd when I read that, why a president of the United States would make such a public statement about one of his subordinates that way. I know she's the chief of staff, but why would he do that?
Well, here's the thing. We all here in this podcast, and all the people that are watching and listening and do this, we all must believe that there is a greater power. And I ain't talking about the devil. Now, is he in there in the game? Yes. But there must be a huge amount of people that are over our president, and that they're really the ones calling the shots. And nothing's going to get done in America. And there's only there's three options. And I don't even know if we have time to get it, but I'm writing a new plan. It'll be finished by November 25th and excludes the government. But here's what I want to say. I don't care about 5D chess anymore. And if the president and Bobby Kennedy and all these people in DC really do care about America, just tell us who the bad guys are. Who cares if they own all the money in the world? So what? If they would just come clean with us and say, you see this family over here? This family lives in Switzerland or Bangladesh or wherever. They're the ones that are controlling the weather modification. They're the ones that are spraying us. They're the ones that are calling the shots on Big Pharma. They're the ones all doing this. And they're the problem. Now, I'm going to open my mouth and they're going to try to kill me. If they just would say that out loud.
Yeah. In other words, what you're saying is if the battle lines were clearly drawn and we knew clearly who the adversary is here, it would be we would have a better opportunity. At least we would know who the real enemies are. But the ones who are pulling the strings here really seem to be sort of lurking in the shadows, and we don't really know who they are.
Well, and then you just have tons and tons of propaganda and psyops.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, the biggest psyop ever in American history is going down with Charlie Kirk assassination. Yeah, if you don't call BS on that, something's out of. I just like to put things in categories when I don't know what they are. I call it order and out of order. Something's out of order with the Charlie Kirk deal, and there's something very nefarious going on with that. And if you don't know that, there's something wrong. But what that is doing to America, what happened with that is there are twofold things that have happened. President Trump knows that he's losing his MAGA base because of the ridiculousness of this Epstein debacle that he's doing, okay? He knows that MAGA is leaving by the droves and they're just not going to go to the polls again, right? I mean, people are leaving. They're not doing this anymore. If Trump, the administration that we have right now, we have President Trump, we have Bobby Kennedy. I was going to say Brooke Rollins, but she didn't really matter. But we have the House and the Senate, and we can't fix this nation. It makes me want to smoke a cigarette and play in the freeway. I mean, because the fact is if this administration can't fix this nation, MAGA and everybody are not voting next time. So guess what? TPUSA, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, they know they need to refill the Republican Party and they need to refill the church pews.
Why do you think they were so afraid of Charlie Kirk, Steve?
Well, it all points back to Israel, right? I mean, let's face it. Charlie knew something about Israel that nobody wants to know. And we all know. And those of us, you don't have to know. You can just know because you know, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have the facts. I mean,
right.
Look,
Yeah. How long did it take you after his assassination to realize that we were being played? Was it the moment they came out with the official narrative? So
I'm a big hunter. Always have been. I actually been a hunting guide on and off all my life. And, I've shot a lot of animals, butchered a lot of animals, even cattle and hogs. My online farm school teaches you how to do that. But look, I told my wife within an hour after watching that on TV, I said, something's up. I said, no way. Because I said that was not a 30-06 round. That was not a big rifle. I said that was, and if they just would have come out and said, oh, that was a 22 Magnum and it was fired from the window of the school or whatever, everybody would have believed it. But no, they got to come up with this nonsense that, that some punk kid from college, his first time gun buyer, is shooting a guy in the neck at 200 yards or 100 yards or whatever. Listen, folks, there's a thing called buck fever. It's like your first time hunter, deer runs out in front of you, you're shaking because you're not breathing on. There's no way. I told my wife, I said immediately, I said, that was professionally done. And I said, they're fixing to give us a bunch of BS. Just watch this. And it was true. And this is just my opinion. Okay. It's only my opinion, folks. So don't stone me. Charlie Kirk is not dead. Charlie Kirk, that was a simulation, and they pulled him out of that hole, and they pulled him and took him to the car. If he was really dead and he was really shot with a 30-06, folks, go buy you a 30-06 today. Go take a watermelon and shoot it, and tell me what happens. There would be a blood trail from where they picked him up. The guys that were carrying him would have had blood all over their arms, and where was the ambulance? Come on, folks.
So as far this is really interesting, and we're radically deviating off of our topic, but
it's all connected. It's all connected.
I find it very interesting where the muse is taking us here. But I wanted to ask you, so it wasn't necessarily the difficulty of the shot that caused you to question it. It's whether or not someone who was not really experienced with firearms would have had the calmness of mind to be able to do that after, running up on top of a roof, lying down. And in other words, there's no way that he would have been calm enough to be able to make that shot.
Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Only a person who's been trained or is completely a schizo-fried, but he still would have to have the skill. You have to have skill, and you would have to be able to process that in your mind before you did it. You're killing a human.
Yeah.
It's not shooting an animal, and shooting an animal does this to hunters. And I'll tell you this, every hunter across America said BS at the same time I did. Every hunter, like, I don't know. Yeah. No, that was not a high-powered rifle. Nope.
Steve, do you think that President Trump, I still have great respect for President Trump, and everything that he's been through. God knows where the country would be without him. So I have to preface this with that statement. But do you think that President Trump, let's just say on the issue of geoengineering, chemtrails, is he compromised himself?
Has to be. Tell me what leader of any part of the world would allow his people to be sprayed with poison? What leader? Who would do it?
Yeah. Yeah. And Steve, I had a conversation a couple months back with a guy who was explaining that this was a military operation and that there's national security reasons for their spraying and what it does to deflect perhaps missiles and things like that. Do you buy that?
No. So I'm gonna spray your children with aluminum for 35 years because I'm worried about a ICBM missile coming from Russia. No. Yeah, I don't buy it.
Especially with the frequency and the regularity of it.
Yeah.
It seems like it at best it would be overkill, but at worst something far more sinister. But let me ask you about this, Steve. Danielle and I were talking about legislation that's been passed in multiple states that either restricts or prohibits or purports to chemtrails, geoengineering, and that sort of thing. What effect do you think that will have if this is truly coming from, the federal powers? What effect do you think state legislation has had or will have on this activity?
Well, you have to go to the penalty part of the bill. So if the penalty is not strong enough, and people say, oh, well, they don't have jurisdiction up to 488 feet or whatever. So what? They got to land. There's 31 or 38 states that are putting in legislation right now. The problem is it's so weak. And listen, folks, if your state is going to put in weak bills, don't put one in at all because it's too hard to go back because your senator thinks he did something. And while he's having his little brandy at night. He thinks he's some cat because they got something stopped, which is false. And you can't get him back to the table. So if you don't put a strong bill in, you got to have penalty.
Well, I think that's really what happened. What happened here? You know, it was a bill that does provide some significant restrictions on it, but when they started debating the penalty provisions, whether they be criminal penalty provisions or very, very significant administrative fines and sanctions, they didn't get that part of it through. So there is a bill on the record now, but the penalty provisions are not very strong.
Well, didn't your National Guard say they wouldn't enforce it? Is it your state? I was trying to remember.
I don't think so. I don't think it was us.
No.
Oh, okay. So one state, I don't know. I've been working in about 6 different. One state said their National Guard wouldn't enforce it. I was like, wait a minute, time out. You're the state National Guard and you won't enforce something hurting the people? I thought that's what the National Guard was for.
Right. There was a bill here that was very strong on the criminal penalties and that sort of thing. And that one was defeated. And the other one that was not is what passed. So
and it was the business lobby. And it was the business lobby.
Interestingly enough, Steve,
that did that. And I will tell you that we took a look at the board of directors of that business lobby organization. And it's some interesting companies for sure.
Yeah, there really are. And so I just think Danielle, that's such a great point. And to your point earlier, Steve, it was the business interests that killed the bill that was much stronger prohibition against chemtrails and geoengineering in Louisiana.
Well, and the thing about it is, if you Rainmaker and Augustus DeRico and Palantir and Peter Thiel and all those guys, this stuff is so nefarious. And I know that this may shock your listeners, but really what the boils down to is they want nanotechnology in your body, and the 5G is going to. I'm sorry, it's real. Look up transhumanism. Look up nanotechnology. It's in your bloodstream. Follow a guy by the name. He's out of Houston. It's Dr. Group, the Global Wellness Foundation. Yeah, he's a good guy. If you could get him on, he will tell you he has one of the 30 micron microscopes. There's only 30 of them in the world. He's done some stuff for me, and he'll tell you that there is not one human left in the world that is not at least 10% of their bloodstream has nanotechnology in it.
Good grief. And I'll mention here, Steve, I had a gentleman on the show on my For the Love of Freedom, the Wednesday show last week, and I would encourage people to listen to it because he has studied the impact of heavy metals and mineral depletion in our bodies. And he has some solutions to help get your body back on track to detox and to live in a state of trying to detox your body from these heavy metals so you don't end up in some neurodegenerative state or with a shot thyroid or, other health problems. So definitely check that one out. I'll put it in the show notes. His name is Dr. Rich Olry. He's out of Michigan. And I'd love to put you two in touch because I think you'd love to talk to him.
Yeah. And what you have to understand is, so I was talking with someone in Bobby Kennedy's world this morning, and they were saying, Steve, we want to talk about fertilizer and we want to talk about regenerative and organic and all that. I said, time out. I said, we're not talking about any of that stuff. I said, because they're spraying us. And I said, until you fix that, there's nothing organic. Folks, write this down. Get your lipstick ladies out while you're putting your lipstick on in the car. Write this in the mirror. There's nothing organic. It's impossible.
So Steve, and I asked you about this last time you were on the show, but I think it's important for our listeners before they go into a grocery store and pay 20-30% more for their produce and other things than they would otherwise. Are you saying there's no difference insofar as the health benefits of buying organic than not buying organic in the grocery store?
The only thing you can do that if you want to know if it's as close to organic, and I don't even like to use the word organic, because of the chemtrails and because of all the stuff, the stratospheric aerosol injection, geoengineering, whatever you want to call it, weather modification, cloud seeding, there is not a product there. My potatoes that I sell, I grow half of them completely 100% organic, and I use a little bit of commercial fertilizer on the other to teach my school how to grow in both areas. Okay. Because if you got real sorry soil, sometimes you need to add a little commercial fertilizer. But if you're going to grow organic, this is the way you do it. My organic potatoes are not organic, folks. And the reason they're not organic is because the planes fly over me all the time and dump aluminum and barium oxide over me. I have farms that 25 miles from me that are showing high levels of toxicity of aluminum. So you can't call it organic when there's aluminum in the soil.
And the fact that you who are selling this and have every vested interest in advertising your organic produce as produce, the fact that you're saying that it's not organic, I think that's very revealing.
Well, if you go look at my videos, if you go to Out of the Wild 3D on my Instagram, you'll see my videos. I'm eating the potato right out of the ground, dirt on it. So yes, it's as pure as you can get. But no, and that's what number one in my farm plan. So if you go to sass-usa.com, you go in there, you can print the farm plan off. It's a lot. It's $375 billion a year to build 250,000 new 40-acre farms, and the government has to do it. I'm sorry. That's the way it's what will work. We're dying as a nation in the farm world. But if you'll look at number one in my farm plan, it's to stop weather modification, geoengineering, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's number one. And then that's where the Mystic Bill comes in. So to get started, I literally told RFK's team in his office this: if we're not going to stop weather modification, don't do the farm plan because it won't work.
So your plan then that we've talked about before to create 1 million new 40-acre farms in America over a 10-year period, that can never be a reality as long as this continues.
It's impossible.
And Steve, there's something else we wanted to raise with you. And I think this may have been what spurred me to reach back out to you. We're seeing this idea that they're going to start injecting the cattle, all beef, with mRNA injections. What is up with that? I know that's all got to be connected to this, right?
Well, I can tell you this: all pork is that way.
Really?
All pork. There's not a hog. There's not a hog that, unless you buy it from your neighbor, there's not a hog. There's not pork in the grocery store. It's not mRNA vaccinated. And I will tell you this: they just changed the rabies vaccine in dogs. The new vaccine for dogs for rabies is SARNA. So it's a different. And I can tell you this: I've had 1,500 people contact me. I'm known worldwide in the dog business. I raise Vizslas. I've had 1,500 people call me with dead dogs. So, and what it's doing is it's killing these dogs. Trust the science deal. People dropping dead after they get shot. That's happening in the dog world too. And so what you have to understand is the way I think that they will do this is what they're going to do is they're going to go to these radio bangs vaccination. If you don't know what bangs vaccination, there's a thing called bangs, and it's calf foot disease. It's when calves are born and they're stillborn. It is a real thing. It's in the soil, but it can happen. And I really believe that's what they'll do. They'll change that, and it's mandatory. If you ship a heifer, now if you keep it on your farm, you don't have to do this. But if you ship that, any amount of miles down the highway, by law, it has to have a bangs vaccination.
Is there any way in the United States of America now to have complete confidence in what we're consuming?
Well, you have to know your farmer, and you better know him well. And the thing about it is, they're going to kill another 50,000. Brooke Rollins is going to destroy another 50,000 farms and ranches by May of next year. And to prove it to you, President Trump when he made the announcement. So what you have to understand is, if everybody can imagine here that they're a rancher and they walk outside and they have 5 steers standing in front of their house, they're beautiful. They weigh 500 pounds, and they're going to take them to the sale barn. So 1 month ago, if you would have took that 500-pound steer to the sale barn, you would have gotten $2,500 for that animal. When President Trump announced that we were going to import beef from Argentina, that animal dropped between $200 and $600 a head. Let me give you how much money that is. Ranchers are already having trouble because their interest rate is the problem. Everybody's yelling the 4 big packers. people, I'm here to announce the 4 big packers are not the problem. Okay. That's all smokescreen. That's Brooke Rollins in her smokescreen on that she's putting out. And I know that because the people that advise her have no idea what they're talking about. I know the people that are advising them. They actually, the person that's mainly advising Brooke Rollins has never farmed and never ranched. I know this for a fact. Wow. Okay. So what you have to understand is this is all a smokescreen and the 4 big packers and all that. But unless you know your rancher, unless you go and do it yourself, that's why. Oh, by the way, my farm school, it was $2,000. I just dropped it to $500. I'm so concerned about our nation. I just dropped my school to $500. That means that you can get a family, a homeschool group of 20 kids, pay $500 and all of them can go through it. You better learn how to butcher and grow your own food. And what the worst part about it is, you guys read your Bible, right? Yeah. Better it not happen in winter. You remember that phrase?
Yeah. Yeah.
If these things happen, better it not happen in winter. Folks, it's winter. You didn't grow food. You don't know where your food comes from. The Bangs vaccination, I guarantee you that's where the mRNA is going to come from. Pork's already done that way, and they are going to destroy another 50,000 farms. And to give you the amount of money that is that on the loss, I was on a podcast the other day. I said, you want to know who did more damage to the ranchers in America in the last 5 years? His name is President Donald J. Trump. You know why? Because in 3 weeks' time, ranchers lost somewhere between $17 billion and $51 billion in asset wealth.
Because of the importation of beef.
That's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and you got a steer. It was $500. It was $2,500 last week.
$1,900 now,
or $1,600.
Yeah.
And then now you're gonna and everybody wants all this meat labeled. Oh yeah, we're gonna label meat. It's called MCOOL, COOL. You can look it up. It's country of origin labeling. Okay, so what? That's not the issue. The issue is that if President Trump really wanted to do it, and it's not true. It's not true that we don't have enough beef. We have plenty of beef in America. We do. Animals are butchered at a larger weight now than they were in the 1980s. And we have it. And I'll tell you this, all you'd have to do is look up what is box beef. Box beef right now, lean trim going from a rancher right now is selling for $2.59. Folks, what that means is the trimming off your roast and stuff like that goes in a pile, gets ground in hamburger. That's selling for $2.59 from the rancher to the packer. Don't tell me Walmart and Costco and Kroger's are the reason that prices are high, folks. It's not the packer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here, Steve?
Okay, so I've got a plan, and here's the plan. The plan is, so I'm teaming up. Everybody should go watch this on Amazon Prime. It's called The Religion Business. It's a 7-part series. Buy it. Pay the money. The boys need the money. And you're going to understand this. So there's $580 billion. Are y'all with me on this one?
$580 billion.
$580 billion given to churches in the United States every year. And guess how much of that really goes where it's supposed to?
I'm going to say a small amount.
6 cents of every dollar.
What?
So what we're going to do, folks, as Christians, if you're sick of your government and sick of your church, and you've been giving in and sowing into a dead church all these years, I'm writing a plan to save agriculture. You are going to give, and we feed the poor, like Jesus said.
And that would be, and Danielle, would that be an acceptable tithe?
Yeah, why not? I don't think the tithe was prescribed to be given to any particular thing, right? I mean, it was supposed to go to the synagogue. We haven't been giving money to the synagogue, I don't think.
Well, Right now we're giving to the synagogue of Satan.
Right. Well, that's true.
Well, okay. Here's the issue. The tithe was to the Levitical priesthood. The Levitical priesthood doesn't exist anymore. We're under a new covenant, and we're under the Melchizedek priesthood. I'm telling you, we can do podcasts all week long, boys and girls. and here's the issue. God wants you to give from your heart.
Yeah.
It's not 10%. He wants you to give what he tells you to give.
That's
and if
right.
you're broke, don't give. I'm sorry. God wants you to get your finances in order. Get your
So
finances.
you're not a
in order.
big believer, Steve. You're not a big believer in the prosperity gospel.
I'm a big believer in the stewardship gospel. That means the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. But
But
there's a lot
I
of,
think you're
go ahead,
right,
Daniel.
Steve. Just that we should be giving into places that we can trust, places that are doing the right thing, and places that are stewarding the heart of God. Right? And I think that's doing things that Jesus taught us to do and teaching the truth. Those are, to me, that's the metrics.
Well, if you look at the spiritual symbolism of farming, you hear all these preachers preach about sowing and reaping. They never planted nothing in their life. Listen, if folks, I got to take my hand off because I don't want to give dishonor to the Lord. But listen, folks, if you're at a church and this preacher is preaching about sowing and reaping, go up and ask him if he's ever farmed. And if he says no, please don't listen to one word he's talking about, because he has no idea what sowing and reaping is. There is an order to sowing and reaping, and understanding sowing and reaping. God is the one that gives 30, 60, 90, 100 fold, and you can get a double portion blessing out of that. But here's the issue. If you sow into barren ground, dead, the word talks about sowing seed into bad soil. It doesn't mean anything. Birds come and eat it. Okay. It doesn't work. And you've been sowing into a dead church all these years, and you've been expecting God to do something. No, you're going to get what's in it. And if you're sowing your seed in order to get a tax write-off, then that's all you get, because you sowed it in order to get a 501c3 tax write-off. So that's all you get. So let's talk about farming and let's talk about tithing. Okay. In order to understand, if you want to know where to give food to people, do it what Jesus says. He's give it to the poor, give it to the widow, give it to these. Okay. And do it to that. And if you do that, then you're doing what the word says. Okay. And if think about this, where you're getting your food from, whether it's physical or spiritual, it's the same thing. You should give money to people where you get spiritual food from. Yeah. And you should get paid well money. I remember that when I was being destroyed as a farm in Texas under Rick Perry and Brooke Rollins and Obama, I remember I was dumping 180,000 pounds of sweet potatoes to my cattle because I couldn't sell them. These are number one and number two sweet potatoes. And a man said, Steve, he said, the reason that you're dumping all that food is because it's a symbol of what America really is and what America really wants. America does not want good food. They want fast food, and they don't care if junk's in it, because that's where they are spiritually.
Mm.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It is amazing the extent to which our government, and officials in it are compromised. We didn't get to this point overnight, and we're certainly not going to get out of it overnight.
And Chris, I'm sorry, I just want to add to that, but I think also all of our institutions, right? I mean, exactly what Steve was saying. The churches are compromised. If the churches weren't compromised, we would not have this level of compromise in government. The corporations are compromised. We see that by them shutting down efforts to clean up our water and our air, and it goes on and on.
Yeah. Well, and if you track the money down, I mean, when you're talking about $580 billion a year, I mean, that's over $500 billion, folks, going to organizations, and 6 cents is dripping out of it. When Franklin Graham has to have a $111 million jet, there's something wrong, right? And $80 million in expenditures for fly that jet around. Something's wrong, folks. And so what you have to do is this shift that has to happen, and it's going to happen. We need a reformation in this country, and I'm working on it. And the reformation needs to be, people need to come back to the Lord. And I'm writing this out. You can go get my book on joy. It's free. And in the back of that book on joy, it's the 12 open doors. It helps you walk in repentance. And so it goes hand in hand. When you see the rebirth of agriculture, you're going to see also this rebirth of people wanting good spiritual food. So good spiritual food goes hand in hand with good physical food.
First the natural and then the spiritual. That's a principle.
That's right. That's right.
And it'll take, and it absolutely is going to take, a strong move of the Spirit. And I still believe that there are millions and millions of good people, good Christians in our country who are, just as horrified by all the things that we're seeing as we are, No question about it. We have to continue to expose it and continue to demand better government. We can't give up. That's not an option, right?
Mhm. Right. Well, and here's the thing. Just think about it this way, folks. The government's not doing what we want them to do. So we as the people can just say, no, we're not doing that. We don't
Right.
have to go to civil war.
Non-compliance.
We just know I'm not doing that. And no, I'm not spending my money here. And no, I'm not doing that. And you just make sure you figure out what companies you shouldn't be giving money to. And people talk about high prices on beef when they're paying $17.53 a pound for Oreos. So please don't talk to me about that.
Exactly. You're right. and on the level of principle here, you just hit on this on something very profound. Every single person in their own way and in their own daily activities can simply make a decision that I'm not going to comply. And every decision that I make on a daily basis is going to be a decision that does not serve this corrupt cabal, whether it's corporations, whether it's the government. I'm simply not going to comply in my own life with this. And if everybody did that, they'd go out of business.
And it wouldn't take it, and it can be done very quickly. And I know this is going to be shocking, but I went to seminary and I left the Rocky Mountains and I'd been in the mountains and I went to seminary downtown Dallas, and I was in there and I was a freshman, and they came out with a book. Now, if you go to my IG, Out of the Wild 3D, you'll see a video I've got pinned there, and I talk about this, and they show a picture of this book. But in 1993, they came out with a book called Marketing the Church. Do y'all know about this?
No.
This is everything we're talking about in this whole entire podcast. It's all connected, folks. All of it. The government, the church business, it's all of it. In 1993, they came out with this book called Marketing the Church. And they said, hey, anybody, the top freshman that writes about this say they don't like it is going to get to speak to the college, and the person that likes it the most is going to get to speak to college. Well, the guy that liked it the most didn't get to speak because I took his time up. And I told him that book was straight from the pit of hell and was written by the devil. And if they did this, the church would be out of power in 20 years. And I literally watched it happen. And so if you go watch that on IG, you'll see, and it's a start. And we've got series after series after series. Matter of fact, the podcast comes out today on Religion Business. The podcast where we shot 13 solid straight hours.
Wow.
You're going to get your drink.
Send us the link so we can promote it.
Yeah. But I really believe that a huge part of the reason why there is so much disenchantment with the institutional church is precisely because they have been so compromised.
Yeah.
They're not set apart as they were for a long time in this country. For a long time in the country, the church really was the conscience of the nation. And we survived some horrible, horrible times because of the conscience of the church and the voice of the church. And that is what is pitifully lacking now in the modern day church. There's no question about that. Now there are notable exceptions to everything. There are some good leaders out there, very good leaders, but by and large, the church has become really just a sheep in the cog of the corrupt society that we live in.
And I'm just give you a little taste of my vision. So my vision is, okay, so we got $580 billion going into all these church organizations. All right. And it's the religion business. And I actually said in 1993, this was exactly happened. Okay. And it is happening, has happened. Just think if you could take half of that $580 billion and you just took that money and you paid farmers and ranchers for good food, paid them a good retail price for that food. It's donations, right, folks? We're talking about the tithe and giving. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we buy this food from the farms and ranches. You save the farms and ranches. We cannot afford to lose any more farms and ranches, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we give that to organizations who are really doing God's work. I understand there's a big, huge soup kitchen in Chicago that is a solid dude, and he really does the work of God. Can you imagine sending him maybe 10,000 pounds of ground beef?
Yeah,
And then that's
Absolutely.
what we do. And forget the church. We don't need big buildings. We don't need big lights. We just think about the air conditioning bill and the light bill on these things. And the church has got to go through, it needs to go through a reformation, and it has to happen now, or we're going to lose this country.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
your voice, Steve, is one crying in the wilderness, and one that is always going to be welcomed here on the State of Freedom. That is for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And nothing in this podcast has been by accident today. It's so interesting. We touched on some very different topics than we had set out to touch on, but I think it was all on purpose because we were going to announce this after you left the show, Steve, but I feel compelled to announce it now that based on what you were saying, Chris and I are planning on starting an exclusive membership community for the State of Freedom. And basically what we want to do is exactly what you're saying. It's a community for sovereign individuals. It's a community for people who want to be empowered as sovereigns to do exactly what you're saying, to walk with the Lord, to do, to understand what's really going on, to be able to delve into the truth in a deeper way, whether that's spiritual truth, whether that's physical truth, or truth about the world, what's going on in the world around us. So I just want to tease that now, and we can talk about it a little bit more later, but we would love for you to be a part of that, Steve.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And bring some of your material.
We're actually writing this plan out. We're actually working on this. We should be finished this by Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
Well, we will definitely visit again about it. Steve Jarvis, thank you once again for joining us today. It's always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. We'll see you soon.
See you.
God bless. Gosh, it's so funny how the Lord just takes us in a direction that's totally different than what we set out. You know, the best laid plans of mice and men, but that's what happens when we give him the right to change the direction of the show, right, Chris?
Absolutely. I really meant it when I say you talk about a voice crying. I mean, he is truly a voice of real courage.
Yeah.
And, I feel like, Danielle, it's hard to point to any institution in our society now that has not been compromised almost immeasurably by the forces of evil.
Yeah.
And so he was right. When Steve made the point that there are hardly any officials in our government now who have not been compromised to one degree or another, and to the point where they're actually making deliberate choices to fall in with the cabal, the power brokers, the elites, rather than honor their sworn constitutional duty to protect the citizens of our state and the citizens of our country. And this geoengineering and chemtrail issue is just a massively important example. I mean, if they're not going to stand up and protest and stop that issue and all the harm that is causing, what does that tell you about where we are as a society?
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is something, Chris, that you and I have been saying since before President Trump was elected. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We cannot expect President Trump to save us. We all have to be in this fight together. And I had a guest on my show yesterday. His name's Sean Briscom. He's a finance guru. But one thing he said that really resonates, and kind of the theme is continuing through what Steve Jarvis just said, is that the direction that we need to go as a society is back to small groups, back to tribes where people help each other, communities of people, like-minded people, similarly value-driven people who really just want to follow the Lord and lead their lives in a way that really aligns. I mean, for us, Chris, aligns with the Constitution, aligns with the founding vision for this country, which is true freedom, not to be mercilessly regulated and taxed to death, not to be sprayed and made sick by every single thing that every plane that comes across the sky. I mean, it is time for us to stand up and regain our sovereignty. And I think I think that there's no better group of people to stand up and do that together as the ones who are regular watchers of this show, regular members of this community, because they are obviously on the same page as us. And I would really love to see how we can bring this community and make it a reality, because it's something that you and I have often talked about. The heart of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group and the heart of the State of Freedom since we've gotten started, it has been education and action, education and action. And so if we can do that in a small group, exclusive way that is completely private from the prying eyes of Facebook and other big tech titans, and if we're able to offer Q&A, private Q&A sessions with ourselves or with people, friends of ours like Steve, I think what an amazing opportunity, because we will be able to really find connections and make things happen in ways that we can't do when we're sitting on this side of the screen and people are just maybe leaving comments in the chat, right?
Very much so. And I think that idea to do that is so powerful. And I can't wait to launch it because, you know, and the premise of everything that we're going to be doing, Danielle, is that the people who have been charged, the leaders and the institutions who are charged with protecting us, are doing just the opposite at this point.
Yeah.
So it's past time that people shed themselves of the illusion that the government really has an interest in protecting us, or even that the church really has an interest in protecting us. Not
Yeah.
that there are not elements in the government that truly are well motivated, and elements within the church that are well motivated, but by and large, the institutional authorities in our society have completely abdicated their responsibilities to do what God has charged them to do, or in the government's case, what the Constitution has charged them to do. And people need to understand that and act accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that this conversation led us down this path, because it is time to reassert our sovereignty. It's right. I mean, Chris, you were the strong proponent and the pen behind the nullification resolution that Stuart Cathy brought 2 years ago to Louisiana. And I think, there's a lot to be said for personal nullification, right? We are sovereign individuals, and we should be able to stand up in a free country and live according to our conscience. So I am excited about having that conversation, continuing that conversation, and we will be offering a pre-launch early bird sale so that we can have the funds to get this community set up. But we hope to launch before the end of the year. So stay tuned. More to come on that next week. But be looking on our social media pages, because we want to hear from you about what it is you would want to see in a community like that. Who do you want to hear from? What kind of education would you like to have us bring to the table? So we're really excited. This is something that we have been wanting to do for a long time, and we are finally in a position to do it. So I couldn't be more excited about that.
Me either, and I'm absolutely giddy about it. I'm giddy about, Danielle, the fact that November 14th, the feed spot rankings came out again, and the State of Freedom is hanging at number 2 on political podcasts in the state of Louisiana. Number 2 in the state after only what, three years have we
Yeah,
been doing?
less than 3 years, and I would say that we're number 2, but we're the number 1 conservative podcast, right?
We're
The
the
other
number
one,
one conservative.
the one,
Yeah.
the one at top of us isn't a leftist podcast, I don't think anymore. Now it's like a criminal justice podcast. So I find that
Oh,
interesting. Yeah,
I find that very interesting too. So we are gaining broadly, and so y'all continue. And thanks to our listeners and our supporters. So y'all continue to subscribe to the State of Freedom, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the State of Freedom, support the State of Freedom, donate to the State of Freedom, and advertise on the State of Freedom,
yeah,
because we want to join and partner with you to help you. You help us to continue to spread liberty across the state. And Danielle, as you've always said, we approach everything from the perspective of victory. You told me that when I first met you.
yeah,
We we approach it knowing that the victory has been won if we are faithful instruments of the Almighty. And we have to pray for the grace to continue to be faithful instruments.
That's right. And just an announcement, Chris, on Tuesday, Gary Musgrove will be back with us. He's part of that fight against eminent domain for carbon capture sequestration, and he will be talking to us about some new developments on that front.
Absolutely. And in the words of the great William F. Buckley Jr., and I'm very happy that he does not have to be alive to watch what National Review has become. In vain we shall go.
Have a great one, Chris. I'll see you on Tuesday.
You too.
Hey, Danielle Walker here. I'd love for you to check out my online boutique, Lux Lion. My mission for Lux Lion is to showcase innovative African designers and sustainable, mission-driven brands. To do that, I bring you stunningly beautiful handcrafted jewelry and accessories from some of my absolute favorite places on earth. Small batch wholesale for storefronts is also available. Join me in celebrating African artistry and shop now at luxlion.us. Use promo code FREEDOM for an additional 10% off your purchase. The secret to losing weight 2 times faster has gone viral. See the transformations hundreds of thousands of men, women, and teens are experiencing around the world with the Slender Eyes drops. These homeopathic hormone-balancing drops are proven to control appetite, support thyroid function, improve energy, boost mood, and increase metabolic rate. To learn more about the drops or other incredible natural wellness and lifestyle products, email me at danielle@freedomstate.us or visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.